Good afternoon. We are live with a weekly medical moment from Cardinal Glennon Children's Hospital, and we are blessed to have the company of Dr. Kenneth Haller. Dr. Haller is a SLU Care Pediatric physician with SSM Health, Cardinal Glennon Children's Hospital, but he is also working with the Visiting Nurse Association and is on our Patient Care Services Committee. So, Doctor, thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure.
For spending some time with us. We've had some technical problems, so anybody who's out there waiting, thank you for waiting. Now, I wanted to preface my first question with a little bit of context.
Mm-hmm.
When me and also you, when folks of our generation, when we were young, we got vaccinations,
Right.
no questions asked. My kids are in their 30s, it was the same thing. But at least for the last decade, and maybe longer, Doctor, there has been reticence on behalf of parents. Why is that?
There are a lot of parents who do have some misgivings about getting vaccines because they've heard some very scary things out there. And the thing is, as you said, we're both of a vintage where we either had personal experience of these diseases or our parents did, and they were more than willing to get us vaccinated so that we as kids wouldn't have to suffer through it. I mean, personally, I remember getting measles and mumps and chickenpox and being absolutely miserable with each of them for 2 weeks or more. The thing is, what people don't remember is that back in 1963, when I got measles, I was one of 1 million kids who got it, and over 1,000 kids died of measles that year. So the thing is that these diseases, which we would think of as childhood diseases because they were inevitable, are also quite deadly. The thing is that vaccines have been so successful at making these diseases uncommon, at making these infections almost rare, that people think, well, I've never seen it. Why should I get my kid vaccinated? Because I've heard these terrible things about vaccines. I don't want those things to happen to my kid. I haven't really heard how bad these diseases are. Maybe I just won't do it.
Well, now we're hearing more about how bad these diseases are.
Right.
I saw you on Channel 2 back in March when measles, after being officially eradicated in the United States in 2000, had reached almost 400 cases in the United States.
Yeah.
Now we have 1,203 as we come into the 15th of August. Why is this?
Well, what happens is that there have been certain communities where there are high rates of kids who are not vaccinated. And when you have a whole bunch of people in one area who are not vaccinated, if one person gets sick, it's like throwing a match onto a pile of dead leaves. And I think this is something we see all over the place. People who think the same way tend to hang out together and live together in communities. And so there are certain communities where there are higher rates of kids who are not vaccinated. And sometimes, especially in states that are more strict about making sure that kids who go to public school get vaccinated, there are whole groups, who get together to homeschool their kids or have private schools where there are large numbers of kids who are not vaccinated. And once someone there gets sick with something like measles, it can just spread to everybody.
Last week we were talking about this, our school readiness program. We have a great school readiness program, and if anybody's interested in participating in that, it's of course not too late. 314-918-7171 and ask for Angel. But the school readiness program targets children, and then we also have vaccinations targeting seniors. But why are these two groups most exposed, Doctor?
Well, when we're talking about kids, we're talking about people who are really vulnerable. And the younger a person is, the more vulnerable they are, the more likely it is that if they get an infection, it's going to be very severe. A lot of the things that we try to protect against with vaccines affect the respiratory tract. And just the real mechanical reality of the respiratory tract, what helps us to breathe, our lungs and our nose, is that the smaller we are, the smaller those air passages are. And if you have smaller air passages and you get a little bit of mucus in there because of an infection, that can block up those air passages. And that's something that we see here at Cardinal Glennon Children's Hospital every winter, is that around September, October, those cases start to go up, and more of those kids get admitted to the hospital throughout the winter, and it's really quite tragic.
I know you're a pediatrician, but does that get mirrored in the senior community?
Well, what happens in the senior community is that, frankly, I'm heading that way myself, and
I'm a member of the senior community.
And these body systems start to break down, so we don't clear mucus out of our lungs as well as we used to. Our immune system is not as reactive as it once was, and so what happens is the older you are, the more likely it is you're going to get sick. Even mobility. One of the things that happens as we get older is we don't move as much, and one of the things that helps us move fluid out of our lungs and out of our nose and out of our sinuses, just getting up and moving around. And if you're just sitting and not moving, things are going to pool in your lungs, and infections can be more profound and much worse.
2 flu seasons ago, 17 and 18, we lost 80,000 plus
Right.
people. Last season wasn't quite as bad, but is it too early to take a look at what we should expect this coming flu season?
Flu is a very clever virus. Flu has a way of mutating from year to year, and so there's a new flu vaccine that comes out every year. At this point, our ability to create vaccines depends on those things that are on the outer coat of the flu virus. Now those flu viruses mutate, and so basically people who are much smarter than me at this point in the year have figured out that the most likely strains of flu that are going to come into the northern hemisphere from the southern hemisphere might be, say, an N5H7 or an H2N12 or that kind of thing. And they'll put together a vaccine that targets those particular strains that are most likely to occur. The thing is, because of that, there is no perfect flu vaccine, and that's why we have to get a new vaccine every year, because there are different strains that are going to be common in the population, and that's why we need to do the best we can to protect ourselves. And it is unfortunate. I'm no fan of getting a flu shot every year, but I always get it.
Well, thank you so much, Dr.
Yeah.
Ken Haller. He is a SLU Care Pediatric Physician here at Cardinal Glennon Children's Hospital, SSM Health. He's also on our Patient Services Committee at the Visiting Nurse Association. We are grateful for your presence there. For more information on this, you can go to our website, any of our programs. Of course, we have Visit a Bit, a program for seniors who are lonely, advanced illness management. For those who have long-term chronic illnesses, we have a beautiful hospice service, and also on our website, lots of stories. There's a great story about 3 things seniors should know about immunizations, one of them being seniors have their own flu shot. All right, Doctor, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your patience and your time. I will see you next week from the Visiting Nurse Association's Weekly Medical Moment. Have a great weekend when you get there.